So, first of all, I mean, I barely even really knew this was happening, the eclipse, until the week of, honestly, when I saw some news reports about, oh, don't forget, there's an eclipse tomorrow. And yeah, that's basically what it was. It was the next day, basically, because what was it? Was the eclipse was Monday, so the beginning of the week was Sunday. So I only really heard about it then. I didn't really know anything about it, but when I did, I kind of assumed it was one of those things where it was going to pass over like Canada or something and not the United States, because I figured the United States news or media or whatever would be talking about it more if it was going to be something we could see clearly. But maybe this doesn't mean anything because memory is subjective, I guess. But I remember the 2017 eclipse because that's the last one, to my knowledge, that passed over the United States. That was like really hyped up, It was almost like a holiday or a celebration. Like I heard about that thing for months, I feel like. And part of that's because probably I remember the first time I heard about the eclipse in 2017 was in like 2010 when I was in elementary school, when I was told something like, I don't even remember, by a teacher or something, that there was going to be an eclipse in 2017, that was the next one we'd be able to see. And I thought they said that because, I guess I was mistaken, but I assumed they said that because there was just an eclipse over the United States. But I guess I was wrong on that, because the last one, I guess Washington could see, and I'm going by like Wikipedia for this, so don't, freak out if I'm wrong here. But the last one that passed over the United States, or over Washington, that we could see was in like 1979 or something, which was a few years before I was born, just a little bit before that. So I obviously didn't get to see that one. And so I don't really know. I remember thinking, though, 2017, that's so far from now. Like, what is the world going to even be like, an apocalypse or something by then? Like, that doesn't even seem like a real year to me yet. And now it's just, from now, that was 7 years before. And now from 2017 to 2024, it was like nothing, in my opinion. That's one of those things where I hear a lot of people when they become adults, and I guess I'm like an adult in quotes or whatever, that it seems like time passes faster, and I feel like that's definitely the case. It does not feel like it was 7 years since that eclipse, like not even close to that, in my opinion. Not that like it was yesterday or anything, but at least in terms of how long 7 years used to feel to me. But I don't know, I feel like this one wasn't hyped up as much, but maybe that's just because I wasn't looking in the right places. I don't know. I'm not really. I feel like I was probably on social media and stuff more back then anyway, so maybe that's why I heard more about it. I don't really watch the news or anything like that because I don't have a TV. So, I don't know. Maybe that's why it didn't feel as hyped to me, but whatever. But I also think it might be just because locally I heard about it a lot more back because I lived in a part of the state of Washington that I guess maybe saw it better. And Pullman, we didn't really get that great of a view of it. Because once I learned what it was actually going to look like, I cared even less about it because I realized we're barely even going to see anything, I don't think it's going to even make much of a difference. But, maybe it's just because it barely passed over Pullman, so I didn't feel like there was any reason to even care about it. A lot of people disagree with me on that, which is fine, There's a lot of people out on the Glen Terrell Mall on the day of with their glasses looking up at it, which is cool, that's fun. I don't have a problem with that or anything. But I just didn't get involved. Well, partially because I had class. I didn't feel like skipping class to see the eclipse. But also because it just didn't mean all that much to me. But, good for the people who are into that, And I think that back in 2017, I felt like you could see more of it. But at the same time, I don't know. I guess maybe you couldn't. But I'll tell you what, just for a little anecdote here, since I talked about it a few times. When I saw the eclipse in 2017, because that was more the last one that I really cared that much about, I was just barely in high school, or it was the summer before I went to high school, maybe, I don't know, around that time. And I don't remember, because I don't remember exactly when it was. It was August 2017, so that's when school, I think it's like a regional thing when school starts for people, but for me, August was when school started, kind of like here. But, so I don't know if it was the part of August that did have school or didn't have school or whatever. But anyway, I went outside to look at it because I completely, even though it was hyped up, I forgot it was even happening until I was reminded of it. And then I went outside to look at it, and like an idiot, I tried looking directly into the sun, which obviously you shouldn't do. But in my defense, I actually didn't really get the eclipse. I thought the eclipse was gonna be like the moon completely covers the sun when I first heard about it. So I thought, I'd be good that if I look at it, it doesn't make a difference. But no, that's not what happened. But even if it did, I feel like there's still light like emitting from around the edges. So you still shouldn't look at. I mean, don't take medical advice from me to any capacity. But I feel like no matter what the context, you shouldn't be looking at the sun during an eclipse. But anyway, I did eventually look at it with those like fake glasses or what. I don't want to call them fake glasses, but those weird papery sunglasses that they told you to look at the look at the sun with. And I do remember them being pretty impressive in terms of the idea wasn't they were just sunglasses. They were these glasses that blocked out everything. Like, it was all black everywhere except the sun when you looked at it. That was the only, I guess, powerful enough light source that you could look at it and you could still see light from the sunglasses. So I remember that being kind of cool. I was more impressed with that than anything. And then I saw the sun and there was like a piece kind of gone from it because of the eclipse, which kind of disappointed me. I thought, well, I guess the eclipse really isn't that special. I guess it just kind of made the sun look slightly different. Although, to be fair, when you talk about that, I mean, that is pretty interesting that it's the one time when you look with those glasses, the sun's going to look different at all. So I probably should have savored that when I had it. But also, the other interesting thing is that I thought at the time still that it was like a full eclipse, like it was going to completely blot out the sun. So I thought that's what an eclipse looks like without like a special camera or something. Like, what a ripoff. But, I thought it was kind of cool that it's, well, once in a lifetime thing or whatever. Not once in a lifetime, but once in a half a lifetime maybe. So there you go. But I thought maybe I blew my chance to see a cool eclipse. I don't know. I really don't think, considering the circumstances, I didn't. But whatever. That was my story from that last eclipse. But I wish I kept those glasses. They could have been convenient for this last eclipse. I mean, I guess they were handing them out in some places, but still. But this year what happened was, like I said, I was in class when the eclipse happened, and we weren't, able to leave during it. I think some people asked. Not that it really matters, because I'm not trying to sound like a kiss ass or anything to the professors or anything like that, but I wouldn't if I was a professor, I wouldn't let everyone go to see the eclipse either, because it's not that important. I mean, it's not going to change your life. You're not going to get superpowers from looking at the sun when there's an eclipse. You're not going to turn into a werewolf or something. So I would have done the same thing. But I feel like I barely saw the eclipse later, because I went outside and it was when the weather got cloudy. Because if you remember, at first it was sunny out and then it got cloudy after a little while. And I looked up because I saw a few people in the general area looking up, kind of trying to look at it. And I looked up and it was mostly just clouds. So, I couldn't really see much of a difference at all. So, I saw the eclipse technically. It's just, you could have told me the eclipse was tomorrow and I still would have believed you after looking at the sun, but whatever. And also, yes, I did look again without wearing the glasses. I kind of thought if you just kind of squint or cover your eyes with your hand like some people do when looking out in the distance, I'd be all right. And, I guess I was. I didn't really hurt much because it was clouded by it was covered by the clouds. But, I guess this just goes to show that some people never learn, I guess. I don't know. But I escaped that with my eyes unscathed, and they're still fine, so, suck it to science. But, here's an interesting thing, and I didn't really know this, but there's a lot of people, because I just see the eclipse as whatever, it doesn't matter, not that much to me at least. But there are a lot of people who think that the eclipse is the sign of the end of the world, or that God's wrath is kind of, I don't know what that's about. But I wanted to kind of talk to someone like that. So I didn't say this at the beginning, but I set up an interview before this with someone I found in the general area. They're calling in. They're going to be calling in just a second if I have it right. And they're going to give their thoughts on why the eclipse is like the wrath of God and that the world is coming to an end and that we've got 5 days left and pretty soon the nukes are going to start flying. So okay, by my count, they have just called. They are on the phone, so I'm going to let them in. So, yeah, let me just get that set up. Hello there. You are on the air. Do you have any opinion? Do you have any thoughts or an opinion on this? Sir? Hello, sir? Sir, okay, all right, they're gone. They left. All right, so unfortunately, they didn't really want to discuss that to any capacity. I'm sorry. I did my best to get them to talk about this, but unfortunately, it was too late. Well, I did what I could. I don't know. I did what I could. That's all I can say. But yeah, that is a serious thing, though, that there are a lot of people who think that the eclipse is the sign of the end of the world. And that's not really something anyone has any misconceptions about, because recently I saw that the governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, declared a state of emergency ahead of the solar eclipse. And I think a lot of people, including myself, honestly, because when we first saw this, thought, because this was Arkansas, it's I'm not saying Arkansas is like this, but this is just the stereotype, I guess. It's like a backwater hillbilly state, basically. And that's why they did it, that they think because, the world's ending. And a lot of people said that was the reasoning. And I didn't really have a hard time believing it just because it's Arkansas. I mean, no offense to Arkansas, I guess, but I don't know. And at the same time, though, I had some doubts. I thought, okay, like I know there are stupid people in the world who think eclipses are the end of the world, but there has to be more to it than that. I mean, it must have been for a different reason. It could not be that we've gone that far backwards as a society, that we've gone to like caveman brain, thinking that because of an eclipse that means the sun has gone out or something. So according to KHBS, that's not the case, and the real reason was the decision was made out of caution due to the expected increase in travel to Arkansas, potentially causing hardships. And that actually does make more sense to me now that I think about it. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's probably what I should have, something like that I should have assumed at first. So I'm sorry, Arkansas, for stereotyping you. And apparently, Arkansas was one of the states where you could see, the eclipse the most clearly. It was in the line of whatever. The line of totality. This is what happens when I just kind of think back to what I thought I read and try to say it again. But no, the line thingy of where you can see the eclipse across the country, the eclipse in its totality. And so you can see it pretty clearly. So I guess I understood why they needed that. And it just goes to show that you can't always jump to conclusions about what you see, I guess. Although, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of people who thought the state of emergency was declared in the state of Arkansas because, like, God has turned against us. We need to fortify the shelter and get the shotguns and the non-perishable food. I mean, there are probably a few people who saw it as something like that, and I can't really, blame them for having that thought when they hear about the eclipse, but whatever. When it comes to the eclipse, though, I said before that I understand why Arkansas in particular would be a state that got so much attention. And at first I thought that's kind of stupid because you're traveling miles, potentially hundreds of miles, to a state you don't know, like flying to a state possibly you've never been to just to see the moon pass over the sun, and possibly, because I'm pretty sure you could see the eclipse in all parts of the country. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Just there are a lot of places where you could see it better than others. And I thought for a second, well, so you're going to another state completely. And if you're bordering Arkansas, like whatever, I guess. Although if you're bordering Arkansas, I assume you're close enough that you can just see the eclipse pretty good in your own state. But whatever. But you're going all the way to another state just because you want to see the moon pass across the sun, which is something you can see anyway. But then, and this is just unverified social media content. Maybe it's like edited slightly. I don't know. But I looked at some of the videos from other states of where you could see it completely, and it did look really cool. Like I always expected, because of my experience, that it was just one of those things where you couldn't even really tell by looking. I mean, I'm sure you could tell somewhat more because, if you live in a state where the moon is completely covering the sun, but you can't really tell, and you have to wear the glasses, and then you could see the cool image of like the ring of light or whatever you want to call it. And then I looked it up, and no, if these are like accurate, it's like the whole land goes dark. It's like actually like a rapid switch to night when the moon passes over the sun, and it's like crazy. It's like why can't I live in a state where that happens? I mean, okay, no offense, but I don't really want to live in Arkansas, so I wouldn't trade, my life here to live in Arkansas just so I could have seen the eclipse. But, it makes you think, like, why couldn't I have been in Arkansas or Texas or whatever, or Indiana, I think, is another state when that happened. I mean, they don't really seem all that linked together. I mean, well, Arkansas and Texas are, like, they're both southern states, I guess. Indiana doesn't really have as much in common with them, I don't think. But, why couldn't I live in one of those states just for one day to see the cool time the moon passes over the sun? And I said before, and I agreed, if I was a professor here, I wouldn't let students out just to look at the eclipse. I mean, students can leave at any time, so it doesn't really matter. But, at the same time, it's like, I would have, I mean, you'd kind of be a douche to not let them out when that's happening. I mean, that's like a miracle of nature, it really makes you think, like, this world truly is cool, I guess. I don't know. That's probably not the best way to put it, but, there are still miracles in nature, I guess. Humanity, by polluting the skies and the oceans and destroying the planet, has not erased all of that. There are still some things to look forward to in the world. And I don't know, like, I'm sorry, I guess, if I'm misrepresenting the eclipse of what it looks like, because, okay, there's no one listening to this show outside of the state over radio, but if someone listens to it on YouTube or something, and that's not at all what it looked like, and I'm completely misrepresenting, I mean, you would know better than me, so I'm not going to question you on it or anything. But, it's just like, I'm sorry that I couldn't be there. I mean, it's not like you particularly would want me there, but I'm sorry that I couldn't see it in person. But anyway, I wanted to kind of change gears for a second because I actually do have someone else. I have a few of these. Another person on the phone who was going to describe why he thought that the eclipse was a sign that God has turned against the world and that we need to get all the non-perishable food and get in our bomb shelters, all that stuff. So I'm going to try to let him in. So I don't know. This may not work entirely. But anyway, hello? Yes, sir. Okay, you're on the air. What do you have to say? Okay, really? You're just going to scream and hang up like that? What is your Okay, well, we got him off the line. I don't know. I'm sorry about that. It's like, it's really insane. You have to deal with this kind of thing. I mean, I really should just stop letting people answer the phone, or I should stop letting people call. I should stop answering the phone when they call. But I don't know. I'm kind of hoping for a real caller at some point. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. I mean, the whole thing with it is there's no logic to this whole idea that it comes from the wrath of God. It really is just, again, if we have so many scientifically rational explanations for what an eclipse is, and the fact that there are still so many people in this day. Okay, I don't know how they even got back on. No, turn it off. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't even know how they got back on there. I don't know. I'm gonna do something about it. I promise. That was the last time. That was the last time that happens. So, anyway, moving on. Because I'm not gonna let anyone else on the phone this time. I don't think. I wanted to say also that I may sound like a hypocrite on this point because I said before, both recent eclipses, I just looked directly at the sun, not knowing what would happen. So I'm criticizing people for doing something that I admitted to doing myself, but it's my show, so I'm going to do that. The number of people who stare directly at the sun is just shocking to me. All right, so according to Fox News, which I know really is, I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel here when it comes to finding sources on stuff, but just stick with me here. Immediately after Monday's solar eclipse, the number of people searching Google for eye-related injuries jumped, and Google searches for hurt eyes and why do my eyes hurt after the eclipse rose after the moon and sun aligned on Monday. So, after everything we heard last time and this year of people saying, don't look directly into the sun, don't do it. Like last year I heard all sorts of, after Trump did it, I guess people thought it's such a common problem we need to start addressing it when the leader of the free world is doing it. That you need to stop doing that. And frankly, I don't blame people who did last time. Because I just feel like the eclipses aren't talked about as much in terms of what you should do during them. There's not a survival guide on them. In case of eclipse, here's how you don't die because that's becoming a problem. But after all that, you people were still stupid enough to look at the sun this year. I mean, did you learn nothing about it? I think this just goes to show, and I kind of brought this up before, in the same way where it's depressing that there are people who still think that, we had, two of them on the phone just a minute ago, that an eclipse is the end of the world. The human race is too stupid to live, There is no excuse. There's no reason why we should make it another day. There's just no reason for it. I don't see any supporting evidence that, humanity is still going to exist by the end of this program. I don't know. No one else is in the studio right now, so there you go. But I think, another thing I saw in the article that really was, kind of funny to me. It's kind of one of those things, or maybe shouldn't be considered funny, but I don't care. It was funny. Is that Dr. Janet, I don't really know how to say her name correctly, so I'm hardly even trying here, but Janet Neshawat, I don't know exactly. If she's listening to the show, she can let me know how I said it wrong, which is probably not going to happen, but I will guarantee that I said it wrong. A New York City-based double board certified doctor. I don't really know how all those qualifications make that much of a difference in this, but it's how Fox News put it, so whatever. Said she saw one patient who looked at the sun either directly or through his phone for about 10 minutes. So that just makes this whole thing that much worse, in my opinion. Are you serious? How do you look at the sun for 10 minutes and your eyes aren't hurting you? I think these are people who did it for 10 seconds tops, stared directly in the sun, and they got screwed up. You did it for 10 minutes, and yes, I know it wasn't, over a 10-minute period. It could have been 10 minutes spliced among however long of time. I get that. But why are you looking at the sun for 10 minutes in the first place? Because, first of all, did the eclipse even excite you for that long? Yes, I know I said I'd love to see an eclipse, a full eclipse one day, but were you that excited and just happy by the eclipse that you stared at it for 10 minutes and you were just entertained by it? And if you look at the sun for 10 minutes, your eyes should be hurting you, right? So you're looking at the sun for 10 minutes, but you're doing something that you know is hurting you, and you just keep doing it even though you've been told by every living being on this planet not to do it. What in God's name is wrong with you, man? And I know I already said this, but humanity is just doomed because even, a dog, like when they do something that's hurting them, like when if they step on like a pebble or something and it hurts, like they'll avoid that pebble because they know it hurts them. Humanity has reached the point where dogs are smarter than us, where dogs have better survival instincts than us. Like humanity has just fallen so far. We've fallen so far off that it's not even funny anymore. It's just the human race. If we make it to the next eclipse, I would be shocked. I don't even know when and I don't mean the next eclipse in America. I mean the next eclipse period. Like, and when will that be? I don't know, like 6 months maybe. But whatever. I mean, we've reached like the point of no return, and I'm gonna have to put a pause on things real quick. I'm sorry because I'm getting a phone call. It's not actually about the eclipse thing this time. It's from someone who said that something has happened. They're telling me from this note I got that something has happened with humanity, that we're not gonna make it for another year. I don't know if like a war is broken out. There's some like breaking. I really need to take this real quick. I'm just gonna put them on the phone. I don't know what they want to talk about, but something's going on that we need to talk about. So, hello, are you there? I know that you just said that humanity is doomed in your opinion as well. Can you elaborate on that at all? Okay, all right. Can you? Okay, get him off. All right. I'm sorry about that. I really thought this time that it was someone who was going to be rational, who was not going to start screaming again, but whatever, I mean, you believe me, right? I mean, that was pretty convincing, right? I really got someone on the phone to start doing that. You believe me, right? But anyway, moving on from the whole dog humanity thing, how dogs, if we have any sense, we'll just hand the world over to dogs pretty soon. No matter what about this whole thing, I mean, I am a bit sad about it because the next eclipse in America isn't coming for 20 years, I saw. And like 20 years, like I don't even know if I'm going to still be here in 20 years. And really, I don't know if humanity is going to be here in 20 years. How are we supposed to make it to the next eclipse? That's insane. I mean, but the thing is, this might sound ridiculous, but however, like considering how cool it looked when I find out about it, like I'm going to save up money. I'm going to one of those states where you can see the eclipse clearly. Like if I am still here, I think maybe if I see it, it would change my life. I mean, considering the way I take care of myself, I'm probably going to be in a wheelchair and have my arms and legs cut off. They had to be amputated. But I'll make it there, I promise. I will make it there. And if this show still exists, I mean, not in this format, but if it exists to some capacity, I'll be covering it. Because I think it could change my life. Maybe it would make me less of a pathetic loser if I finally saw a full eclipse. It's the moment it's the moment we need. It's a moment where there's so many people with the state of the world and all that giving up on life and feeling that what are we even here for? If they all could see a full eclipse and bask in the darkness of it, I think that would make all the difference to them. I couldn't say for sure, but I would bet on it. But like I said, that's if humanity lasts until 2044, and that is not a given. Because I guarantee by 2044, like if we're going to drop the act, if humanity does exist in 2044, the number of people who are going to be Googling, why do my eyes hurt after staring at the eclipse, even adjusting for like humanity inflation in terms of that, there will be way more people on Earth. There will be at least 9 billion, 10 billion by 2044. That the number will just skyrocket because I don't know. I don't mean to be one of those people that the old days were better and everything was handled better and kids these days are stupid. But I don't know. I feel like people just had more common sense not to look at eclipses without any sunglasses on in the 1979 eclipse. But I don't know anyone who was watching that, so if anyone can set me up to talk to one of them, I'd be glad to. But just one last point I want to say on the eclipse before we get off this topic. I just want to emphasize, because I really didn't go into it because all those callers, they didn't want to talk about it. If you are stupid enough to think that the eclipse is the sign of the end of the world or the apocalypse, then first of all, you shouldn't be voting. And second of all, you should move to I think we need to just make a town where everyone who believes in those kind of things, and I don't mean believes in God or whatever, because clearly there are plenty of people who believe in God who don't believe in something like that. But people who just believe that the eclipse means the sun went out and that we're never getting it back, it's the end of the world, hide your kids, hide your family. You just need to move to some designated town with, a chain link fence around the whole place, and, don't come out unless it's for food or water or something. And even then it's, really think about it before you come out. Do you really need the food and water? And considering the fact that these people believe that an eclipse is not a scientific, naturally occurring event, I think if they had to think about it, they might think they don't need food and water to survive. So, there is some hope. There is some hope for cleansing the world of stupid people yet.